Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back. So today I want to talk about Lucas and Disney deal rumor. Now everybody keeps saying all these things about this deal and everybody's saying it's speculation. Everybody says it's just a rumor. Now, originally, I believe it was Doomcock that first had reported on this, and everybody keeps claiming, oh, well, there's no way. Disney would not have bought the IP and then left things open for Lucas to keep garnering money off the franchise. Now, here's where everybody's wrong. Why do I say this? Well, let's start off with the beginning. Everybody says the same narrative. Everybody keeps saying, well, Disney bought the IP. Disney bought the IP. And there's no way Disney would have bought the IP and left things open for Lucas to keep making money. And this is where everybody's wrong. Okay, so what's an IP? For those of you who don't know what an IP means intellectual property. What is intellectual property? Intellectual property is any thought or idea or story that you have written down or that you have created. What did Disney actually buy? Well, so we got to go back to the beginning. And the beginning is when George Lucas first decided that he wanted to sell off certain franchises of his. Now, what did he want to sell off? Well, around 2011, 2012, George Lucas put it out there that he decided he wanted to get out and he wanted to pass Star Wars on to the next generation of filmmakers. But what did he sell? He did not sell the IP of just Star Wars, and this is where everybody gets it wrong. Right here, as you can see, Disney is buying Lucasfilm, the company behind the Star Wars films, from its chairman and founder, George Lucas, for $4.5 billion. They did not just buy the IP, and everybody keeps forgetting this. Why? Because it was so long ago that it slipped everybody's minds, or they just plain forgot about it, or maybe they weren't paying attention to when the story was originally released. Disney purchased Lucasfilm and all its subsidiary companies. All of them. So what did this entail? LucasArts. LucasArts, of course, which is, behind all the video games and everything that Lucas had, created for the Star Wars franchise. And all the subsidiary companies, which included Lucasfilm Animation, Lucas Online, Industrial Lights and Magic, and Skywalker Sound. Everybody keeps forgetting this. And quicker than you could say Banthapoodoo, Disney had swooped in and purchased everything. And faster than a runaway droid, Disney began to salvage and dismantle Star Wars to an extent. Now, this came before what I would like to call the Great Reckoning and the force choking of Star Wars out of existence, and leading into exactly what we have now, which is this sad iteration of Star Wars. So, getting into dismantling. So what did Disney do after they purchased this? $4.5 billion is a lot of money. And if Disney had purchased Star Wars itself outright, why would they have turned around and done this? Turner, they sold the rights to not only the original trilogy, but the 3 prequel movies. They sold the rights for them to air these films. Now, Turner became the sole and only people who could broadcast these films now. If Disney was so intent on just buying the IP of Star Wars, why would they have sold the rights to Turner? And they sold it to him for a fairly hefty price tag of, the idea is around $250 million for this license term. And it runs through all the way to 2022. Now, if they were just after the IP, why would they have sold everything off? This makes no sense. And I think everybody keeps missing this. But of course, just like the Jawas, Well, Disney wants to try to steal something. They're looking for those droids and they're looking to take them so they can tear them apart or resell them, as it were. Now you get into articles like this where Disney will need more than Jedi mind tricks to buy back Star Wars TV rights. Turner Broadcasting, which owns TBS and TNT, bought the TV rights to the original trilogy, prequels, and newer titles before Disney firmed up plans for its own streaming service. Well, now that Disney has got their own streaming services going in and they got everything in the works, they want everything back because they want it all. And you could just go right through these articles about how Turner bought the rights to these things back in 2016. So what does that mean exactly? Well, if you're looking at this from a rational explanation, you could see that Disney was not so much interested in just the IP. Hence why they destroyed all the canon, because they did not care necessarily about the IP in a whole as it retained to the original trilogy and the prequels and the canon. They just wanted the name. They wanted the name so they could bastardize it in their own films and create whatever they wanted. Now, why? Why would they get rid of the original trilogy rights and the prequels, for that matter, to Turner, if they had full and sole control? I do not believe they did. And this gets into the rumors of why I think Lucas does have some kind of percentage deal and he is collecting some kind of revenue from this. If Disney had this, they would have re-released it under their name brand. They would have wanted to capitalize this on, and they didn't. Why? Because they more than likely couldn't, because of whatever George Lucas had in place. George Lucas has always called Star Wars his baby, and he would want to protect it. Now, why would Lucas want to get extra money out of it? You know what? I've said this before, and maybe it's partly to do with what happened to Lucas when he came out with the original trilogy. He had to partner up with a toy company because he had this vision. He had this vision that he could make a movie and he could sell toys along with it, marketed to kids, and that he could go somewhere where no other franchise really went before, at least not financially, to the point where it made sense and it was profitable. So George Lucas had this idea, well, I want to make toys for this. This is going to be something big. He came up with the idea of creating these toys. He pitched it to all these different toy companies. Toy company after toy company turned him down, to finally he landed at Kenner. Kenner was the last toy company he went to, which was a much smaller toy company at the time. They were not one of the big toy companies. They were not, at the time, like a Mattel or a Hasbro or any of these other big toy companies. No, Kenner was a very small company. A company to decide, yes, we can do this, we need this. So they hammered out a deal with Lucas, which wound up being extremely, extremely beneficial to Kenner. George Lucas got a very, very small share of each toy that was sold. I forget exactly how small the share was. It could have been 5, 10%, maybe even 15% of it. It was a very small take. And George was a little bit bitter over it, but George really had no choice. He really had no choice. He had to go with them. They were the last ones, and they were the only ones. They were the ones that were going to make this happen for him. So he went ahead and he signed a deal with them. And then, of course, over the years, when the original contract ran out, George Lucas had the contract renegotiated and got much better terms. But I think George was probably always just a little bit salty over this. So when Kenner came out with the original toys, of course, there was no way they couldn't get the toys out to market in time, and they had to create what was called the early bird certificate, which was a brilliant piece of strategy. If you want to catch a really good take on this story, if you have Netflix, there's a series called The Toys That Made Us, and they go into depth about Kenner and Star Wars toys specifically. It is a very good show, and it really touches on everything that happened throughout that entire process and the run of Star Wars toys with Kenner and Lucasfilm. So, getting back into the early bird package, when they sent this out, they sent out this little promotion that, a parent would go in and they would buy this early bird certificate in the store, and it would tell you what you're going to get with the certificate. And you were going to get originally 4 figures. You were going to get Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, and you were going to get R2-D2. Now, this was something new. This was something unheard of. You're selling a piece of cardboard to parents to give to their kids for Christmas time. Well, they needed to get these toys out by Christmas time. And, of course, once the toys were made, they eventually got their first 4. And like many other kids, you all getting this. I believe, if I remember correctly, the stand also wound up coming. I can't remember exactly. It was so long ago. I forget if the stand came or not. But I know as a kid, I had this stand where I had the little swivel mounts on where, 4 characters actually, it was 4 characters would move off of one swivel. And, it had the little name tags that you could put down. And, of course, it had the cardboard backing with the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter and the Death Star on it. And it was really cool. It was amazing. There was no other toys on the market like these at the time. And they were huge sellers, to the point where when Star Wars got down the road, they decided, hey, like this here marketing things that ain't out yet, this is actually working. So they went ahead, and before Empire Strikes Back ever came out, they had a prefabricated Boba Fett done, and they decided, hey, we're going to do this as a mail away before the movie even comes out. And it was a stroke of genius. It kept people interacted with the brand through the toys in between movies. It was pure genius on the part of Kenner. Of course, they wound up also doing a re-release retro of the early bird certificate because it was such a popular idea. So getting back into what I was talking about with the main part of the story, I really do believe that there is a deal where Lucas is getting some kind of percentage. Hence why Disney wanted to kill off characters. Why they wanted to try to steer clear and as far away from the original content as possible is because they're greedy and they want to take in as much as they can. And remember, they did not just buy the IP, they bought a business and all its subsidiaries. This is what Disney actually purchased, and everybody keeps getting it wrong. They keep saying the IP. I think this rumor is very possibly true. I can't say it's true, but I think all the signs are there to point to, yes, that this is a distinct possibility that this rumor is true. Maybe 25% might be a bit much. I mean, I know George Lucas was smarting over the Kenner deal. And when he renegotiated with Kenner, he renegotiated a toy deal with them where it was a lot more beneficial to Lucas than it was to Kenner. So, is it possible it could be 25? It could be possible. It could also be less, but I really do believe that this is the distinct possibility and that this rumor may actually be based in fact. So anyway, you guys, that's all I really got to say about this. And to all the garbage that Disney is pushing forth with their new trilogy and their parks and everything, everybody has their own little saying. I've gone on many chats and I say, I like to refuse the refuse. I will not buy into it. I will not partake of it. I will not waste my money on a company that cares so little about its fan base and all the canon and every bit of story that was told before, the mythology of this franchise that they do not give a rat's ass about. They see dollar signs, they seen a golden goose, they wanted as many eggs out of that goose as they could get before they freaking wiped it from existence. Because that is exactly what they were doing. They were dismantling and destroying this franchise. If you don't think so, you're just not really paying attention to what's going on. Anyway, guys, that's it. That's all I got to say. You guys take care, and I will see you next time. Later, y'all.